Are you kidding?
Are you kidding?
Are you
That
kidding?
ain't no. That's an autograph to me. That's an autograph. It's your chicken thing.
This is boring. I'm so done with the camera. Wow. Oh no.
I would like to say
Yes,
that I'm going to miss you so much next year, and that I'm going to remember all of our moments. And that you will always be my best friend, and you lived up every word of best friend, because you were there for me through the hardest times, through the good times, through the crazy times, and through the just indifferent times when we were just staring going like that. And I'm gonna love you forever. You better win a Tony, and you better meet in my movie, because you don't have a choice, because you kind of have to, because I'm making you. So be safe, stay true to yourself. See you this summer. Oh yeah, see you this summer. Cool. We're gonna party.
Megan Kumis, you're one of the most dearest people I know. And I start crying because the bell's coming in a minute. But I know you're gonna do incredibly awesome in college, because that's what you do. You're awesome. And I had a good time getting to know you these past 4 years and all of our crazy, crazy times. And just remember that you can do whatever you want to do. You're worth it. And don't let those guys get you down. Gosh darn it. If I hear one thing about stupid boys and starting I Hit Megan clubs in Colorado, I'm gonna come up there and beat them up.
Yay.
Yeah, I would love
I'm
to
hoping
see
they come in.
Kristen beating someone up. Go to wait.
Anyways, Megan, I love you.
You took my thing.
I've always said that.
All in this picture. Because we all. Where's the last one? Why are you talking like that?
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back to One Hen, Two Ducks.
Yes, a grown-up Theater Kids podcast.
Today is a very special episode.
It
It's
is.
our 10th episode.
10 episodes, guys. You guys have been here for us for 10 episodes. I can't believe it. We made it, y'all.
We made it. We did 10 of these things.
Dude, how are we still doing this?
And yet 10 doesn't seem like a lot either, does it?
No. But it is a lot. It's we started this like a little over a month ago. Maybe we're approaching the second month. So yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a great ride. Actually,
It's been a great ride. It's been fun.
Has been fun. I love every single moment of it. Being
We
with
decided-
my besties.
We decided for this awesome 10th episode to explain a little bit about who we are and why we are called what we are called, because a lot of people, we're a theater podcast and we're called One Hen, Two Ducks, and people just don't get it.
Don't get it.
So,
it is a very much an inside thing.
It's an inside thing.
That Kristen,
Yes.
our producer, will explain to you.
Hey,
Hey
Kristen.
guys. Hi. All right. So One Hen, Two Ducks. It's a radio announcer's test. So what it is, it started off in the 1940s. They were using it at Radio Central, New York. And what they would do is they would give this test to people that wanted to be on the radio. And it tests memory, it tests alliteration, it tests all kinds of things. And then they would give this test, and if they passed, they'd be on the radio. So what they did for us is we also had to memorize this. And it tests us in so many different ways.
So many ways.
So many ways. So it's one of the very first things that we had to do as little baby freshman theater kids. So first we memorized this radio announcer's test. And then we got up there and we had to do challenges with it, where we would stand there and we would say this announcer's test and all the other kids would try to distract us. So I know for me, like I was getting so frustrated with everybody just making goofy noises. So I started screaming my test at the end, and then all the kids were screaming back at me. So that is my memory of One Hen, Two Ducks. And there were speed tests with Megan, our own, winning that one.
Yes.
Good
And if you
talking
wonder
fast.
why a theater class would do this, we also must say that we went to a performing arts high school. So when we call ourselves theater majors or theater kids, we were literally like, it was the most important part of our day. We were at the school specifically to learn about theater, to grow in theater. And so our teacher was very serious about our theater education, and he felt that this was completely necessary as he introduced it, like Kristen said, introduced it to baby freshmen. And for me, I mean, one of my favorite memories, I know I got through it because, you know, I was able to ignore people. Nobody could distract me. But one of my favorite memories is one of our one of our friends had a leotard under her shirt, but no one knew. I knew because we had danced before that, but no one else knew. And this young man was trying to get through it, and he was getting through it. He was doing great. And she stood up right in front of him and lifted her shirt, and he done stopped cold in his tracks. It was the funniest thing in the world. But that's my favorite memory of that poem.
Yeah. So to give people still a little bit more context, we went to the Las Vegas Academy here in Las Vegas, which is a performing arts high school. The way it's set up is you pick a major, you audition for a major. And it's set up sort of like a college program. And you have your major every day, but every other class you'll have every other day. So you only have 4 classes a day. Even though you're in school for about 8 hours, you have 4 classes a day, but every day you have your major. But you'll have math or science like every other day. And like we all auditioned, we all got into this program freshman year. Our first real assignment, our first real thing to start digging into was this poem. Our theater teacher wanted us to learn to, help us find kind of our voice and our confidence, and also sort of a little bit of an icebreaker. Like, we're all saying weird, crazy things. And then when we're trying to make each other laugh or make each other break, like we're getting each other's, personal space and what have you, or lifting our shirts up. And we were just, we were just kind of learning how to be comfortable in the space, because then things started getting more in depth and more difficult. And then it became more of, now you're students, now you're practicing a craft and you're not joking around anymore. Like, get it all out now, because then we're going to be serious. And even with this poem, we had to be serious. So what say you, ladies? What say you that we say this poem to our listeners right now?
Yes. So
to our audience.
Remember, our entire theater class had to memorize this poem. And even our original theater teacher, our freshman theater teacher, told us, and we thought he was joking, but he told us, this poem will forever be in your head and in your heart, forever. And we're like, whatever. And he tested it over the years. Even in our senior year, the late, great Mr. Edwards, Glenn Edwards, may he rest in peace. Love you, man. Yes, love you, man. Would come into our senior class and would say,
1 hen.
And then we would say, 2 ducks.
3 squawking geese.
Hi, Selena. Hi, Megan. This is amazing. I'm so happy that you guys are doing this.
Okay, I'm just gonna hit record, and if I mess a bunch of stuff up, then we're just gonna keep rolling, and you'll have a blooper reel. Okay.
Love you, and here we go.
1 hen.
1 hen.
1 hen.
2 ducks.
2 ducks.
2 ducks.
3 squawking geese.
3 squawking geese.
3 squawking geese.
3 squawking geese.
1 hen. 1 hen, 2 ducks. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese.
4 corpulent porpoises.
4 corpulent porpoises.
5 limerick oysters.
5 limerick oysters.
6 pair of Donos versus tweezers.
This is 6 pair of Don Alverso's tweezers.
1,000 Macedonians in full battle array.
7,000 Macedonians in full battle array.
7 pair. No.
8 brass monkeys from the ancient sacred crypts of Egypt.
8 brass monkeys from the ancient sacred crypts of Egypt.
9.
9.
9 sympathetic, apathetic, diabetic old men on roller skates with a propensity towards procrastination and sloth.
sympathetic, apathetic, diabetic, old men on roller skates with a propensity towards procrastination and sloth.
And 10 diabolical, no.
10 lyrical, spherical, diabolical denizens of the deep which quiver around the quay of the river Kwai.
Of the river Kwai.
The River Key.
I think I nailed it.
LVA 05. Love and miss you all.
That was awesome to see.
That was
So what you
amazing.
what you just saw, what you just heard was friends from our freshman theater class that we reached out to, I guess maybe at this point 72 hours in advance, and just said, hey, want to do something kind of crazy for our podcast? And of course, like the adult theater kids that they are, the grown-up theater kids that they are, when it comes to the one hen poem, yeah, sure, why not?
Yes. And many of them still had it 100%.
Still had it.
In lock, in their head, in their hearts, just like the late and great Glenn Edwards said.
Glenn Edwards. I feel like we should give them all a little bit of a shout out. I'm just gonna go down my list of some people and just shout them all out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna throw up for those of us that have gotten married and changed our names. We don't care. We're gonna say your maiden names right now. So deal with it.
Yes, the artist formerly known as
Gabby Rivas, Laura Savage, Chelsea Rickling, Paul Votrino, Shawnee Senna, Kathleen Doyle, Alicia Kivala, Rebecca Marks, Brenna Jordan, Cassie Stabler, Sasha Neugebauer, Kelly Howard, Ashley Franta, Katie Rand, Celeste Vorse, Shayla Love, Danny Savvy, Brittany Cal, Seth Love, Arissa Prifty, Ray Riley, Kristen Novak, and Jenna DeLauro.
May I say that you saying those names?
Gosh, just hearing those names.
Hearing those
it just
names,
brings so much
dude.
happiness.
So much joy and memories. And again, the late and great Mr. Glenn Edwards also told us that the people in that room that freshman year were going to be people that we have an incredible, unique bond with, that, you know, we will be friends forever. And it's true. And thank God for, you know, Facebook and social media, so we can keep in contact with all of these people over the years. But saying those names, man, it just brought like tears to my eyes. Just, I love you all so much. I don't think you realize I love you all so much. We've gone through so much together, things we sometimes don't even want to say on camera, especially when playing Do You Love Your Neighbor? We're just going to leave it at that.
It's that thing of like you start saying these names, you start remembering, especially freshman year, you start remembering that room. Yes. You start remembering the smells of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the smells of that hallway and the smells of that building. And not that they were bad, but it's just like an old building smell, yes, because it was kind of an old building. And you just remember the days of like just trying to understand what this craft was that was theater, and trying to be good at it, but you know what I mean? Right. And then figuring out how to like let all that go and just be. Mm-hmm. And that's such an intense thing to learn at 14, 15 years old.
And knowing that we were also selected to be together. You know, this is not like a zone school where, hey, we just live around each other. This is why we're together. We were handpicked to be together. And I'm going to cry. I'm just going to. But it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
So when I tell people what LVA was like and what it was like going to a school like this, sometimes I make this comparison. It's like when Harry Potter gets his letter that he's going to Hogwarts, and it's just the most exciting thing. Because we literally got a giant pamphlet in the mail saying that we were going to LVA.
Do you guys remember getting your letter? Do you
guys
remember that day?
Oh my gosh, I was so happy and shocked.
Yeah, so I tell people it was like you went to the mailbox, you got your giant pamphlet of everything you needed to go to LVA with, and then you go and it's your first day, and all these other kids, we were 50 out of 500 kids that auditioned for this program just for theater.
And 25 in each class, so we only had 25 in our particular class because there was 2 classes of freshmen.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like seeing like these are the kids that got the pamphlet too, and this is so exciting.
Yes.
We all got to go through this experience together, and
Yeah.
I
And then
remember being told that like if you don't get in, you basically get just like a letter this big. You know what I mean? And if you get in, you get a big big honking
envelope.
thing. And so I remember going to the mailbox like every day, and every time I'd see just like little letters, I'd be like, oh, like my heart would sink. I would think like, surely I didn't get it. You know what I mean? And then I do remember the day I opened it and there was this giant thing. And I remember seeing the turquoise artist guys on the corner.
Right here.
And
right
I
here.
remember those guys. And I remember freezing, totally frozen. I was like, I just stopped, like my heart stopped. Everything was frozen. And I grabbed the packet. And I didn't get any of the rest of the mail. I grabbed the packet and I ran into the house screaming. I'm like, I got it, like freaking out. As if I got into like a full ride
Harvard,
scholarship
Yale.
to like
Yes.
Juilliard. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's what it felt like though.
It did. It felt so special. And then, so before this poem that we were told and taught to recite, we were told to redo our auditions for everybody in the class. And I remember looking and watching everybody's audition. And it was funny because in all honesty, they were terrible. Every single one of them. But they were really bad. But one thing I noticed, and I confirmed this with the late great Mr. Glenn Edwards. I confirmed that of all of us that I noticed, we all showed potential. We didn't just recite. None of us just recited a monologue. We got into some crazy characters. We made some crazy choices, acting choices. Some of us were like me, were crawling on the ground. Some of us were like pretending to ride a horse. Some of us were, doing all kinds of crazy things. But that's what showed, for Mr. Edwards, showed these guys are willing to go all the way. They're willing to put themselves out there. And it was beautiful just watching the whole gamut of auditions and seeing how we were chosen. And I love you guys still. I love you all.
I love you guys. So we met during that class, that freshman year class.
Me, Megan, and Kristen.
Yeah. Yes. And we all were like very close. And especially by the time we got to senior year, we were inseparable, and we all had our funny kind of moments and favorite memories and stuff. What are some of your guys' favorite memories from theater class or LVA? Do you have any things that stick out to you? Should I go first?
Yes.
I'll go first. Favorite memory wise, I'm gonna try to do one from each year if I could. Favorite memory from freshman year would have to be, and this is so strange, but like just every day coming in and sitting in a circle. Like we come in, our stuff went down in probably very specific spots, but then we all sat in a circle. And I feel like I know exactly where I used to sit sometimes in the circle. Sometimes I wouldn't always sit in the same spot, but most of the time I did. And I think it was always usually to like sit next to Selena. Once her and I became like super, super close, it was always like want to sit next to Selena because she's my best friend. And I think that was my favorite memory from freshman year, just being in that circle, because I feel like so much happened in that circle and so much creativity happened in that circle. And that's where I feel like we really changed. In sophomore year, it was the first time. So we would do Mr. Bourne, our sophomore teacher, Mr. Jerry Bourne, would do like, he was very much like, would get us more into like our bodies, like stretching, more kind of like physical theater. Because he went to clown school, so he would teach us a lot of clowning.
Literally, we're not joking.
Literally clown school. And we would do like a clown makeup day, and that was a blast. That was fun. But I do remember
every other classmate like outside of our theater department out.
It was like,
it's
like this day.
Classes.
All the teachers would be like, "It's this day, huh? Great." But I remember us like we'd have certain days where he wanted us to like do some like meditations, breathing exercises and meditations, just to help calm our minds and focus our energy. And I remember how helpful that was. And I remember one day in particular, like finding the level of focus and chill that I've never found ever again, but it was so great. And I just remember thinking like, oh yeah, I do feel like totally limitless when I'm in this place of calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that feeling, but I can't get back to it, but I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Junior year in Miss Hardgrove class, because we
Kathleen
were in the
Hargrove,
same Kathleen Hardgrove. Do you remember when we would be in the, well, first of all, that spray, that if we're talking like that year, Jekyll and Hyde was a monster. We did Jekyll and Hyde our junior year, and that show was a beast. I remember being in tech and getting out of class twice. Do you remember that? We would get out of class like for half the day, or like at 10 a.m.
We had to get
We would start class at 7 and we'd be out of class at 10. We'd have like a
we lived at the school, people. We lived there.
At the school. We got out of class at 10 a.m. to go tech a show. And then literally I remember it being 5 p.m. The show opened at 7:30. Mm-hmm. People were arriving and we were still on stage teching the beginning of the show. And I'm like, we're going to be here all night tonight. Like we're going to finish the show and be back on stage teching. Mm-hmm. And we were, and like we got out of class, I think the next day too, because still wasn't finished with the show. What a mess.
And then
so those are my three. My senior memory. Oh, I want to think about that one a little longer. You guys do your first three, then we'll all do our senior memories after
my
that.
My favorite freshman memory is it's a mixture, because it's similar to the circle, because my great awakening, and it took me a minute because I didn't get what Mr. Edwards was saying, but because when we were in that circle, one of the first things that we were made to do is to write an observation log, and at first I was so annoyed with that thing.
Observation log.
Yes,
I forgot about that.
What? How did you forget about that? Anyway.
Girl. I remember one day I was so out of things to observe, and I didn't understand what he meant by the project. So I wrote down like the day I observed an Oreo. And when I tell you there was some very descriptive words in red ink in my observation journal about like how I should never, ever do that ever again. Why am I even at the school if I'm going to observe an Oreo?
Well,
Stupid.
Yes.
Stupid.
It terrified me.
It was bad. I think you were sitting next to me and I was like,
yeah, I was like, oh crap, I gotta up my observation.
Oh my goodness. Well, I remember finally learning the point of it. And this is why I remember it to this day, because it was so poignant to me. It was so like light bulb for me, because I realized that he was literally prying open our perspective. Prying open to see more than just ourselves. Because, in life, we go out in the world and most of the time we just think about ourselves. And doing observation logs forced us to look around and see what's happening. And to not only just see it, but to really, really understand it, to focus on it, to really see it, to look inside of it, if you know what that means. Like, not just, oh, look and be like, okay, there's a cat. No, but to see that cat, and to notice that cat, and that just boomed me. So that's one of the big memories, as well as we were told to do, and we did it again senior year, but we were told to do these activities to music. We were told to do an occupation. And we did it to music. We did it at freshman year, and we did it senior year. The senior year was more memorable.
Freshman year was like, it was occupation, age group, or animal. And then senior year, he said it could only be an occupation.
Yes. So that it was more memorable, but yeah, so that was freshman year. That was my favorite memory. My sophomore year in Mr. Bourne's class was honestly him. Just Mr. Bourne in general, because he would do these things like where he would be taking roll and he'd be right in front of him, and he'd be like, okay, Kristen, she'd say, here, Megan, here, Selena, here, Selena, here. Where's Selena? Selena, here. I don't know where she is. Then he'd go back down the line, and then I'm like, Mr. Bourne, I was right here. And he'd look at me, why were you late?
Why
I was like, I wasn't late. I was right here.
Sitting in front of you.
He was just trolling. And everyone knows he was just trolling, but
He was the original troll.
He was the original troll. And he was just so much fun. He just, I don't know, I just loved him. And then he used to do these things. So in theater, and if you're in theater right now, or if you've been in theater, you might know what these called. In our theater, it was called OOTS, which is objective, obstacle, and tactic. And Mr. Bourne is the one who taught us that. And he'd be serious about it. Guys, he'd be like, he's like, all right, here is your objective. All right? But there's obstacles. And so you need to have tactics so you can keep your eye on the objective. And then he would walk off just like this. And I never forgot that too. And it was my favorite. In Miss Hardgrove's class, our junior year, my favorite, just to make fun of it, to be honest, was our exercises. She would have us ping through the space, like ping, ping through the space, and slash through the space, slash, and punch through the space. So we'd be walking around the room doing all these like jerky movements just to warm up our bodies and our voices, I guess. But it was just funny just watching. Sometimes I would like look around and I was like, we all look a hot mess.
Yeah.
Completely ridiculous, but who cares at this point?
Now when I think about it, I'm like, maybe it was to try to get us to like think on our feet and think in kind of outside of the box ways. I've never really thought about that before, but now that I'm thinking about it in this moment, I'm like, maybe that's what it was.
I think
because
that's
I
what
know,
it was.
Yeah, like it was kind of more of a imagination exercise. Like if someone says ping, what does that mean to you?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And like you said, react, because we couldn't, there was no like, oh, let me just stop here and think. We were walking around the space and then we had to just react and just do it and just do it. And it was just getting our bodies like just into that, like just almost like a response movement of whatever is happening, being responsive to whatever is happening. So, so it was a cool exercise. I just, at the time, I was like, this is weird. What are we doing? And then senior year, like I said, that it was the occupation exercise, but then also we did this really, I won't get into details, but we did this really like open our souls, get to know each other exercise and expose our fears to one another. And it was the most beautiful experience. I remember many of them. And I feel like that was where, even though we were seniors and we had known each other for so long and we'd gotten to know, we did a lot of ensemble exercise and all that, but that was the moment where I felt like now I 100% know these people. Now these are just family. They're more than just classmates. This is family. And I love them from the top to the bottom, to the faith, to the fear. Yeah. And yeah, so that was, oh, I forgot one. I'm sorry. I forgot one. Sophomore year. So it wasn't just Mr. Bourne. Sophomore showcase was also my favorite memory.
God.
Especially with our opening number. We had a young lady who came out there and killed the show.
She was the best MC.
She was the best MC ever. And so that was my favorite. And then plus me and Megan basically killed each other playing Helen Keller and Anne.
Anne Sullivan.
Anne Sullivan. Yes. So Megan played Anne Sullivan. I played Helen Keller. And
it was a scene from The Miracle Worker where she's trying to get her to eat.
Yes.
And
if you know that scene, you know.
we went full out. We took no prisoners.
Mr. Bourne told us. He observed our rehearsal one day and he's like, if you're gonna do it, do it.
And we did
it.
And it was legendary.
I just accidentally almost killed Miles. That's all. No, because he wanted to do a scene with a knife that I assumed was fake, and maybe it wasn't that fake because he sliced his hand in the middle of it.
That was also the year that I got braces, so I was in a lot of pain. So
that was the year I broke my leg.
I was gonna say we were gimps together. Remember? Because I also busted my growth plate, And we were in crutches together. And remember, I fell once getting out of my mom's car, and you saw me, Kristen, and you were trying to gimp over to me with your crutches, and you're like, "Hold on, I'm coming." And I kept looking at you trying to get on my crutches, like, "How can you help me? You're crippled like me. What are you talking about? You're trying to help me up, and you can't even walk."
Do you remember our nickname was Crip Hose?
Yes, the Crip Hose. I love it.
Yes.
And the hoe cakes, the Crip Hose and the hoe cakes.
And
I still hoe cake. I still use that.
Yes, hoe cake. Girl. Sheila girl.
Sheila girl. Sorry, we're going into inside jokes now. But Kristen, what were your memories?
Okay, so freshman year, I also have the occupational skit whatever memory, but I have a different memory of it. So before that, and I guess still then, I was always the person that put just 110% into everything. I overthink things. I overplan things. I'm not really told very often it sucks or it needs work or improvement. And so I overthought, overplanned, really put everything I had into this, my skit. I was going to be a soldier doing it to Born in the USA. And so I worked on this for weeks. I get it there. I do it. I think I'm so patriotic. And Mr. Edwards just ripped it apart. And I think that's the first time in my life that I've ever had that happen. And I remember it just tore me apart. It ripped me apart. But it made me want to try harder. It made me really learn how to take constructive criticism. And I say learn because it's something I still struggle with. But it's the first time I ever had to deal with it. And it was such an important lesson to learn. I'm glad I learned it that young because it's something I still deal with every day. But I'm thankful that Mr. Edwards put us through that.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards, by the way, was he made Simon Cowell look like a puppy.
Yeah.
Guys.
At least our freshman year. Once after our freshman year, it's like he started getting nicer to the freshmen. But our freshman year, it was rough, but it was
so good though.
It was stuff that we needed. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between a teacher that absolutely hates you and is going to make your life hell because they don't like you, and a teacher that cares about you and wants and knows your potential, but you can't see it and wants you to succeed so badly that they'll yell at you to make you wake up.
And he was right, because I remember him saying that the industry is not nice. He was literally preparing us for the industry. It wasn't, we were theater majors at a performing arts high school. We were serious about wanting to do this for the rest of our lives. And he was not going to take, let us go without, green like that. He wouldn't do, because that would be mean to me. If he would just have babied us and spoiled us and coddled us and then sent us out there into that world that is completely mean. I think that him doing that did prepare us, because whenever I did go out there, now I'm like, okay, fine. You can't,
whatever.
It's whatever, because I'm used to it now. While if I was how I was freshman year and going straight out there, I would have been like, and I would have probably quit, because I would have been so broken down. So.
But it's funny that, even though he got really hard on us, it's like it almost made, at least for me, I know it made me love what I was doing all the more.
Oh yeah,
you know
appreciating
it. And even just I don't know, it's that whole thing of letting everything else go and actually really focusing on what I needed to focus on. And, when I would read a play or when we would do any kind of assignment, we were always looking for kind of the extra things, not to impress Mr. Edwards, but we knew there was more there. We all of a sudden became these little excavators and digging into all these other things because we wanted to.
People hate watching movies with me because I still am. I still critique everything because it was ingrained in us to critique everything.
I have Mr. Edwards syndrome now. Do you remember Mr. Edwards syndrome, where he goes, I can't be surprised anymore. I can always tell the ending of everything. I've been in this too long. I can always tell the ending of everything. And that's me. That's me now. It's very rare that I'm actually surprised, because I actually I'll be watching any show and I'm like, this is what's going to happen. I can already tell. You know what I mean? Based on how they're already setting it up, this is what's going to happen.
So funny. Sorry, Kristen. What is your next one?
So sophomore year, my favorite memory is Les Miserables. And the reason that's my favorite memory is so I talked about this in a previous episode where I knew really early on that I did not want to be an actress, but I really did not want to go back to my home school. I didn't want to leave. I had so many friends. I loved theater. I loved learning about theater. I just didn't like acting very much. So I had worked as a stagehand in previous shows, and I liked it, but working behind the scenes for Les Mis made me love it. I would just go back there every night, and it was magic. I loved the songs. I loved the experience. I just loved being backstage. I loved learning everything I could about production on that show. And it just made me realize, like, I could go somewhere with this. Like, I could actually do this and be happy behind the scenes, be happy organizing a show, being happy running things behind the scenes. And that's what I currently do. So that's the show that made me love it. So
Les Mis truly was one of the greatest shows we did at LVA. And it's one of those things where everyone says their high school shows are great, and I get it. We all feel magic when we do theater.
Ours was
and yeah, there was something extra. And I don't know, like, maybe we'll look back, maybe we'll see a video one day of one of our shows and be like, oh, okay, you know what I mean?
I don't know, because we have to remember that, yes, we were high school kids, and we were doing, and all of everything that happened on stage, from the stage actually and backstage, was all the kids running it. After a certain point, the adults took their hands off it. They would go into the audience and just watch. So we ran the whole show when it was showtime. But we have to remember, though, Megan, that this is why I think we were actually as good as we were, because we were sold out by people who didn't know us. Like, they didn't know. They just came to see a show in Vegas. They paid $15 to come see us.
Which is nothing now that you think about it.
I know, it's nothing, but that's like a movie ticket. They could have went to go see a movie. They could have went to go see anything, but they came to see us, and we were sold out a lot of the time, especially. And I think the most special shows were Les Mis, Jekyll, and Beauty and the Beast. Our years, at least.
Totally.
And they were just different. And even I would even give it to Hello Dolly too. Like, but we were
Hello Dolly was good. Hello Dolly was good. It was massive, so there were so many people in it, and I was a freshman and I didn't really know anybody. Even like there was a few other freshmen in the show, but they weren't, because the show was so big, they weren't in my ensemble group, so I was separated from them. So it's not like I could even hang out with them. I was in my own different little thing because the show was massive. But it was a beautiful show because we were able to get the costume pack, the professional costume package. So we had these gorgeous costumes and hats and sets. But I feel like I remember, watching a lot of the show from off stage, because I was just in the ensemble and like gal ensemble. And I think I marched in the band, you know what I mean? So I didn't really do a lot, but I feel like even in Les Mis, I was in 3 scenes. So I did a lot of just watching from the wings, and it just was such a magical experience.
I was an usher. I was like, have a seat.
Yeah, I know. You and I would just come find you. We had our ritual. Like, I'd come find you and I'd sit with you, and then we just watch the show.
I think I was an usher on Hello Dolly too. But
yes, you were, because we were trying to learn how to tie our ties, because Mr. Edwards made us wear ties, and we were like, how do you do this? Come here. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So back to Les Mis for a second. Another reason why it was so special is because we were the first high school to do it. So it was amazing. No other school had done this. We had to work really, really hard to even get this show and to prove that we could do it. And we had Broadway cast members come and coach us. And I remember opening night, like, they'd all signed something and faxed it over, because that's what you did in the early 2000s. And it was just
faxed it.
It was just like being a part of the show that was bigger than us, bigger than our school. And just having all of this attention on it, it was just magic, guys.
And it was a huge success. It was such a big success that we had a huge party. Megan doesn't remember this party, Kristen. But do you remember that party that we celebrated?
I don't feel like I was there.
You were there. I'm telling you, I have pictures. You were there.
I don't remember this party at all.
She doesn't remember this party, and it was huge. We had jumpy houses. We had we bobbed for apples.
I don't remember.
Oh, there was so much going on.
Wait, I don't remember the bobbing for apples.
I do, because me and Shawnee did it, and we had to, because it was like a bob for apples and a relay. So we had to be tied together in our legs, and we had to go run over there, we'd bob for apples, and...
Okay, that I think I remember.
Yes.
That might be the only thing. I feel like I remember watching you and Shawnee do this.
Yes.
That might be the only thing I remember.
You were there. Mr. Edwards had a big old speech. Harrison was sitting there karaokeing by himself in a chair. Yes.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yes. He's just sitting by himself, just karaokeing.
I do remember that.
No one
I don't remember what else I was doing, but that I do remember that.
See, you were there. But
Kristen,
okay.
what's your favorite senior year memory?
Junior year.
So my favorite junior year memory, and again, this isn't because it was a fun memory, but it's the year that we did Laramie Project. The show itself was great, but why this is my favorite junior year memory is because we were doing the Laramie Project, which, if you don't know, is a story of Matthew Shepard, who was a beautiful, brilliant young gay man that was killed because he was gay. And this whole show is based on things that people actually said around that time. So it's powerful, it's emotional. So because we were doing this show, a church called the Westboro Baptist Church, which you may have heard of, found out we were doing it. And they came all the way from like the Midwest to our school in Las Vegas to protest it.
A high school, people. A high
school.
Children.
And so we knew that they were coming. We were warned they were coming. And it was kind of just that first moment of activism for me. It was like, this is wrong. They can't come here and tell us that we're terrible and we're going to hell for doing this show. Like, they don't even know us. They didn't know Matthew Shepard. They didn't know any of this. And so it was this collective moment where the whole school was like, we're not going to take this. We're going to tell them that they're terrible. And so everybody, like, we did like a vow of silence for a couple of days. We all wore black wristbands and we all stood up and we said, no, like, this isn't okay. And it was on the news. It was all this crazy stuff. But it was just this moment where I felt like we're standing for something.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, obviously the administration at the school was very much, wanted to keep us students safe and away from any conflict. And the church was on the opposite side of the street, across the street from the main building. And that was back when they had kind of grass out front in front of the main building. Yep. And it was before school. And I remember being there before school. And obviously there were some students standing out there and whatever. But I feel like I remember some theater kids were able to snag the angel wings that we used in the show.
Did. Yes.
Right?
Yep.
They did. And even though like I think the principal was like, please go inside. Yeah. We were like, no, we're going to stand here with our wings.
For our rights. Yeah. They stood with the angel wings outside. I remember we lined up and then we got kicked out because, like you said, they were trying to keep us safe. We didn't care.
We were trying to keep us safe. I know. We were like, what safety? We're fine. And they're like, children, get inside.
Children. Go in.
But something else I remember from that is that there wasn't that many that came from the church. It really, like, I want to say like a couple dozen at the most, but hundreds of our parents and people that believed in us stood on the opposite side of the street to defend us and to tell
counter-prode it. Yep.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment.
It was a beautiful moment.
I mean, I remember like I even like broke up with a boyfriend because he was like agreeing with the Westboro Baptist Church. I'm like, this relationship's going to end now over this play.
Girl, get out of there. Yes. Trash. Take out the trash.
Take out the trash, girl. She's like, I did.
I did.
And then senior year.
So it's kind of funny because we actually just talked about this the other night when we were planning for this. So my favorite memory of senior year was our very last class, the last day of school. And I remember like we were all looking at the clock, waiting for the bell to ring. And we were all just kind of like either like holding hands or like we're kind of draped on each other, all just staring at that clock. And then we're counting down.
Do you even realize we were sitting in the place that we all auditioned to? I didn't even realize that to this moment.
Black box.
Yeah.
So I had that thought too. Like, so when it started, we were in the black box.
Didn't even realize that till this moment.
Don't cry me, because then I'm gonna cry.
Okay, no, I'm really gonna make you cry. So the bell rings, right? And I had this visceral memory of we all just stood there and we weren't sure what to do. We're like, the bell rang. Do we run out? Like, yeah, school's up. But nobody wanted to. It's like this moment we just became adults and we're on our own and we have to leave school, like this place that we loved and that loved us and that sheltered us. And we all just kind of froze because we just didn't want to leave. We weren't ready for that. I had a picture taken. I think I handed my camera to one of the teachers, and we'll probably pop this up. But it's one of my favorite memories. And
it actually reminds me of another memory that I forgot about, which is a big one, a huge one. So we were together during 9/11, And for me, in my memory, it was the first plane hit on the way to school, and I was listening to it on the radio with my mom. I'm like, okay. At that time, everyone thought it was an accident, nothing serious yet. And we get to our first period class. For me, it was English, and we're just going through. Towards the end of that class, the second plane hits. And for us, our theater class was right the next class. And so, our principal gets on there and he's like, okay, when you get to your next class, make sure every single classroom has TVs, make sure blah, 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 right? Now we're young, so we're like, okay, whatever. And we just go to our next class, which is theater. And we had Mr. Edwards freshman year. And we're going in and we come in and we're just all talking and and actually I remember specifically that I was making fun of it. Because I was like, who misses a damn building in front of your face? How do you miss this? It's like right there. It's a tall building. This is stupid. And I remember Mr. Edwards just went off. He's like, stop it right now. Everyone stop laughing. This is a very serious moment. And all of a sudden we just sombered up and we're like, what? And I remember that moment because as we were watching, they wheeled in the TV, because back in the day, that's what they did, wheeled it in. And as we were watching, we held each other. And we were the only support that we had in that moment was our fellow theater students. Mm-hmm. We were confused. We were scared. We were terrified. I know my grandparents were up in the air. I know other people's family were in New York and all that, but we came together, held each other, and then just prayed. We didn't even care what religion we were. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was more a show of love, support, and care for one another in that moment. And I just feel like I'm so thankful that we had each other, because being in any other classroom, I couldn't even imagine. But we had each other in that moment. So that was I remember
after that. But I remember after that class going to my next class, like after having this very real and intense and emotional experience in our theater class, going to the next class, which was, it was my Spanish class. And all the kids by that point, all of us were like, we got to watch this. Like, we got to keep watching and seeing what's going on. And I remember the teacher being like, nope, you're in Spanish class. We're learning Spanish. And I remember one girl having a freaking meltdown. And she's like, are you out of your mind? And like, still the teacher just kept going, but everyone was like totally out of it and like did not want to participate.
Right now.
You can't. Yeah. And because I don't think she realized how intense this was and how important this day was. And so she just like, nope, we're gonna learn. Or maybe that's how she was able to like process.
Yeah, maybe she was in denial mode. She didn't want to deal with it.
I don't know. But like we were all, and I remember the rest of that day, like obviously in class, like watching things or talking about it or something. You know what I mean? Like teachers engaging with us, not like pretending nothing was going on and like blinders and like, let's just do the curriculum. You know what I mean? So that was, yeah. I just remember, and I remember, it was Shawnee's birthday too.
I know, I remember
which was so sad.
So that was my somber. I know we are doing high memories, but that was it was a very poignant memory. It was a little bit more somber and everything. But again, I'm just so happy that we had each other. And it was the theater class.
Remember my favorite senior year memory.
What is it?
So it was the first couple days of senior year, and we didn't have to dress or anything. We could stay in our normal clothes, which was wild and crazy for Mr. Edwards' class. But he told us that that entire week, the only thing on the curriculum, we were going to play games. We were just going to play.
That's right. We need to remember the art of play.
Because this was the last chance we're ever going to get to play these games. Because now, from this point on, we're all going to be starting to turn 18, or we already have. We're going to be seen as adults in the eyes of the world and to our parents. We're all going to be going on and making big decisions in terms of like moving on after high school. What are we doing? From that moment on, like from pretty much now on, we don't get to be kids anymore. We have to be adults. And so he wanted us to remember play and remember these kind of innocent moments too, and cherish them. So for an entire week, we played hide and seek.
That was so much
fun. We played Duck, Duck, Goose. Yes. Any game, we did it for an entire week. And I remember it being so much fun. And I remember finally, in senior year, Selena and I came up with this game, and it makes no sense. It's not really a game. But we came up with this game in freshman year.
Of course
where
we did.
her and I, there's one specific hallway in the theater, in the vocational building at LVA. And Selena and I would get down on all fours, and we would lean against each other and like press each other like shoulder to shoulder and try to kind of not knock each other over, but just
crawl,
have enough tension that you could feel the other person, you're kind of pressing against them, and then slowly crawl, but then also like crawl with your hands overlapping the other person, and it would crack us up. And sometimes when we'd have like sad days, or we were feeling especially slap happy or something like that, we're like, let's do the crawl. So we'd get down and do the crawl, and it'd always crack us up. We would always like can't breathe, tears streaming down our face. And everybody would be like, what are you guys doing? Finally, senior year, we got everybody to do it with us. And we had an entire line of people. And I'll be damned if not every single one of them people didn't start laughing their asses off.
Because we have been doing this for like since sophomore year. I don't know when it began.
Freshman. It started freshman
year. I don't even know when it began, but we would randomly do it, and everyone would always look at us like we were crazy. We didn't care.
We finally got everybody to do it with us. We had this huge line of people, and we did it, and it was so freaking funny. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
But that's what was great. That's what was great about it.
Yes,
is it made no sense, and it was still like everyone doubled over, tears.
So, Kristen, I don't know if you know. Because me and Megan noticed this the other day when we were planning, and I was looking at our yearbook, which, peeps, this is our yearbook. Woo-hoo! The senior yearbook. But I don't know if you know, Kristen, but it's actually weird. But in our theater picture right here, who's in the row?
Hold it still.
That top row.
Oh, hey. Oh, hey.
Look who's in that top row. Megan, Selena, Kristen.
Isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird?
That's how we're lined up in every picture of us.
That's how we're lined up in every picture.
It's just weird together there. We're the only ones doing this little arm cross thing. No one else got the memo apparently in that row. But we're there and we're here again. And I just found that weird and adorable.
Can I share a great friendship memory?
Yes.
Yes. Of course you can.
Right. So our junior prom, we went to both of our proms all together. But my junior prom, I had a date. And this is the same like stupid Laramie Project boyfriend that I had to dump because he hated Laramie Project. But I forgot that we were going to prom together. So I felt like I had to like stick to that commitment. So we got a prom and he was just freaking the worst date ever. Like I could spend all night going through every instance of why this was such a bad date. But the kicker was that he had another girl that he brought from his school to our school's prom, and he like snuck her in somehow. I don't know how he did it, but he did. And so we kept so this guy kept disappearing to go dance with his other date, right? And we're like, where did Kristen's date go? I don't know. And we'd be looking for him. And I remember, like, I think it was Selena that came running up, like, Kristen, your date has another date. Like, he's with this girl. And so I remember just all of us girls just marched over to him. And we all started, like, we got in there. And we started like dancing with him and his date, like just like right in the middle of them. And then the guy was like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, you're Kristen's date. You need to be dancing with Kristen. And who's this girl? And you guys just all stood up and yelled and defended me. And it was just this like the most beautiful woman empowerment.
We will still today. Her husband better watch out because we still today would defend Kristen in a heartbeat.
How totally like progressive of us and totally fearless of us. That's awesome.
Of course
I do remember having a conspiring moment to be like, we're all going to go over there. Funny.
Oh man, that's a great one.
Friendship moments that was the prom where my straps kept breaking too. So Selena,
but it's okay because so her straps kept breaking, but because I was too small for my dress. So I had all these safety pins in my dress. So every time Megan's popped off, I would come and be like, "Here you go. Take a bobby. Take."
It was so great. It was a hot mess of a dance, but we had a good time. We always did.
We really
So,
did.
Women supporting women. Let's just give a little brief what we did post high school.
So post high school. All right, so first I must say that about senior year, kind of like what Kristen was going through, but I think mine was a little bit more different, as mine was a identity crisis. And I had this idea. It was a very immature idea, but it was an idea, and LVA honestly wasn't helping. But so at LVA, they made a huge deal of our musicals. Huge deal. They were like the talk of the entire school. That was also because the theater department opened the musicals up for every major to audition. So it wasn't just theater majors that got to be in the musicals. It was anybody who can get in. So that's why they were such a big deal at our school. Well, freshman, sophomore, junior year, I was never able to get into a musical. And so I, in my mind at the time, was like, I'm just not good enough. I'm just not good enough to be an actress. I want to be an actress, but I can't do it apparently because I never get into musicals. Although I did get into every single straight play, but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was thinking I can't get into a musical. So I decided, and I do love writing, and I've always loved writing since I was a kid. So I was like, I'm just going to be a playwright or a screenwriter. That's what I'm going to do. So about the second half of senior year, funny because I finally got into a musical, but I was fine at that point. I was like, nope, it's too late. This is not for me. I am going to be a writer. And that was completely against our teacher's wishes for me, but I didn't care. So I didn't audition for a theater school or a theater college. I didn't do any of that. I decided to just stay in Las Vegas and go to UNLV. And then I wanted to pursue screenwriting. And that's the reason why I chose UNLV. It was going to be UNR, but UNR didn't have a screenwriting specific major, and UNLV did. So anyway, so I go into college, and lo and behold, I'm in there for screenwriting. And because I was in film classes, they always put me in front of the camera. They always had me acting the entire time. And so then I fell in love again. I was like, well, maybe I actually am good. You know, and it really pumped me up because one of my film class teachers too, he was supposed to be critiquing the actual filmmaking, but he was like, look at this girl. She's actually really good at acting. And I was like, that's me. I am good. You know? And so I decided, I was like, you know what? Johnny Depp didn't go to college. So-and-so didn't go to college. I'm done with college. I'm just going to go straight to LA and be famous because I'm so good. So I quit college sophomore year and I moved to LA. And I was there for a few years, and I finally got an agent, and I finally did all these things. I was in a lot of background movie, like you name it during that time, and I was probably in it. I was like in everything. But then I actually became a mother. And so I thought I had to quit acting, and I did for a little bit because I was like, well, that's it. I blew it. I became a mom, but it's okay because motherhood is beautiful, so I'll just embrace it. And it was funny because I wasn't chasing acting at all, and I wasn't chasing theater at all, yet it kept coming into my life. I moved to New Mexico, of all places, where I was born, and I was working at some random like counseling place as an accountant person. And lo and behold, there was a theater person in there, and she's like, oh, please audition with me. And I was just going to be there for her. And I got into that one. And then after that, I didn't even have to audition for shows. I had directors coming to me going, can you be in my play? Can you be in my play? And so I was in theater shows there. And then I went back to Vegas and was in other theater shows, like library shows. And they were like calling me, asking me. And it was just crazy. So then I was like, I'm going to go back to theater. And I did and I didn't. I did and I didn't, but I kind of tried to do it. I tried to incorporate theater in the life that I was living. But then lo and behold, here I am. Megan and I Marco Polo'd, and I'm back in theater again.
Yeah, baby.
That was it.
Yeah. That's kind of like a little bit of a little how the podcast started too. So,
Yes.
you know, we graduated from high school. I went on to pursue musical theater and got a musical theater degree from the University of Northern Colorado. I moved back to Vegas and was just kind of saving my pennies to move to New York. Did a few shows out here, did a few more shows in Colorado, and finally moved to New York and had been out there up until the pandemic for like 7 years. And I had this kind of crazy moment where I just finished a gig and I flew back to New York and I was home for a day. I was home for not even 24 hours because I came back like at 8 p.m. at night. I got to my apartment, had some dinner and like went to bed, woke up the next morning, kind of like unpacked, repacked, chilled, and then went right back to the airport because I flew to Vegas to visit my mom. I was just going to visit my mom for a few days. And then kind of everything shut down. So I didn't go back to New York because I didn't have a job and I didn't have any, like my job at my restaurant was done. Any theater prospects were done. My mom was kind of going through some stuff. So I decided to stay and kind of help her with it. And I've been trying to figure out during this time, like at first it's really nice. It's like, oh, I finally get a break where I don't have to worry about being perfect and doing this. And I can actually just take some time to just rest. And I did. And then I had moments of what am I going to do? Because then it became more and more real of this is not coming back for a long time. So what am I going to do? Even restaurants. What am I going to do? This is all I've ever known is theater or working in a restaurant. And those are both totally kaput. And thank goodness I was able to get a restaurant job this summer, just working as a kind of like seasonal bartender. And during that time, I feel like I had several major meltdowns of like, what am I going to do? And also figuring out like how to be creative during the pandemic. And nothing was coming out of me. Nothing. Like I started journaling and I was writing things down, but nothing that I was really feeling was kind of coming to physical fruition. And I came back to Vegas to spend the holidays with my mom. And I remember just like for months, Selena had been on my mind. And it was just weird. Like, obviously, like I talked to Selena. I'll like her Facebook statuses. We'll chat back and forth. We used to Marco Polo a little bit a while ago, but then she got off Marco Polo. And
I don't know how to work that dang thing.
It's that kind of friendship thing where it ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes you talk, sometimes you don't. And it makes no difference in span of the friendship because you're just friends all the time. And this was one of those moments where it just kind of kept popping in my head. Like, I need to text her. Or I need to call her something because she won't get out of my head. And so finally one night I convinced her to get back on Marco Polo. And so we're Marco Poloing back and forth. And I just kind of said this thing where we were talking about ideas that we had that we really want to, make happen. And Selena said, my husband said, like, if there's anything that you want, like, and she's like, I'm realizing now more too that I'm older. If you want anything, you just got to do it. If you want parts, you got to write them. If you want to make a movie, you just got to make it on your phone. You just got to do something. And I was like, you're right. We should start a podcast. And the next Marco Polo, she's got her computer open. She's researching podcast platforms. Thank you, Anchor. Thank you, Riverside.
Yes.
And she's figuring out exactly how to do this. And that was always my missing link. I'm very heady and I'm very in the air. I feel like sometimes creative, but it's difficult for me to pull it out and get it into the physical world. And Selena was like my link to actually start getting it done. And it was so like it then all of a sudden became, it's like being underwater and coming up for air and taking that breath and being like, oh. Yes. And finally I feel creative and I feel useful. I've been texting that to people all day. I'm like, I finally feel useful again. Mm-hmm. And it was Selena that had this, we were talking about one day during one of our meetings about wanting to incorporate all these people that we really cared about, which led us to talking to lovely Kristen again. And I believe, Kristen, you reached out to Selena, right? About if we needed any help with anything.
I think I said that generically, and then Selena was like, well, actually.
See, I'm telling you, she's a doer. She's a doer. If you offer, Selena's like, I've already got a I've already been thinking about this.
I got you. What you want? I got you. All you LVA people watching this, I got you. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out somehow.
All right. So after graduation, I took a really weird detour because I had this thought where when I was a kid and people asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would say a veterinarian or a whale trainer or a conservationist or something with animals.
Yes.
So I was
do remember this.
I do remember that.
Yes. So I'm going to vet school. So I went to UNR my freshman year for pre-vet. And I mean, long story short, I had a boyfriend that told me that I probably shouldn't do that. And I believed him, which looking back was stupid because I could be making a lot of money right now as a veterinarian. So I quit that, which is kind of one of my weird little regrets, but not really because I really like my career right now. So anyway, so I was like, well, crap, now what do I do? Like, I can't be a veterinarian anymore. And I'd already broken up with a guy, by the way. So
take out the trash, Kristen.
You have to take a lot of trash. I'm glad you ended up with.
Kristen had to keep walking back and forth from the house to the curb a couple of times.
Couple times, and then she finally got a good one.
Yes.
But then again, didn't we all?
Yeah, we did. We all did. That's true.
So I looked back and I was like, well, my happiest memories, my happiest times were at LVA, being behind the scenes, setting things up and putting shows together. And so just one thing led to another. And I was like, and you know, I really love telling stories. I really care about world events. So I'm going into journalism. So that's what I did. I went into journalism. I focused in broadcast and I found that I really loved that too. So I have a career where I've been a news producer for about a decade. I worked in TV. I worked all kinds of different newscasts. And I could spend all night telling you crazy stories of how that works, working in live TV with some big personalities and breaking news.
And how many awards did you win? Don't you pass your awards?
I may have 3 little ladies named Emmy that consider myself. So 1, 2, 3
people.
Yeah.
You're 3 away from an EGOT. Don't worry, we'll get you there, Kristen.
We'll get you there.
So, yeah, but as things do, when you're in something for a really long time, sometimes you get burned out. So I took a little break from TV. I went into video and commercial production, which was just also really fun for me. It was just a nice little brain break, and I got to learn a lot of new things. And so that kind of led me where I am right now. I miss news. I miss organizing shows. I miss just being part of something big like that. And so I searched for months, like, what can I do that's news, but not TV news, that's long form storytelling, all these things I like. And I saw a job opening at KNPR State of Nevada months ago.
Woo-hoo.
And I was looking at this post and I was like, I feel like I'm like 50% qualified for this job. I feel like there's a lot that I could do and there's a lot that I've never done. Like, I'll apply, but they'll probably not want to talk to me. And I'm glad I did because that's my job now. I've been out there a week and I'm having so much fun. And so, yeah, I'm a senior producer. That means I help organize stories and I'm doing promotions and eventually I'm going to be on the radio. Maybe we'll see. So,
Yay! Our Kristen. Our Kristen, where me and Kristen got lost finding the green room.
Yes. But it's using those skills that we learned at LVA. You know, it's just that's where it all starts. Just learning production, learning how to put a show together, learning how to work together as a team. It all just builds up and leads us to where we are today.
And a sense of excellence, I've noticed. I mean, going out into the world and like trying to do any sort of thing creative, I've noticed that there's just this mentality of, okay, it's just enough. While I feel like our training has given us, I mean, some people can call it perfectionism, but I really do think it's just a sense of excellence. If we can do it well, we're going to aim for it every single time and we're not going to want to settle. And I think that's an LVA thing too. It's in our DNA. We just don't settle.
Sometimes almost to our detriment, because sometimes we don't even start a project because we want it to be so perfect from the get-go and we know we can't, or we already judge it that we can't. But I think we just, you know, if this podcast has proved anything, it's just do it and you'll figure it out on the way.
Yes.
Thank you, Kristen, for letting us kind of strong arm you into being our producer.
Strong arm me.
Yes. Yes.
No,
and go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's been this like fun creative boost that I think we all needed just with the pandemic and things shutting down and just things gloomy and sad and everything. It's just been this fun, like a few times a week we get together, we talk, we plan, and then we reminisce. It's so fun. I love it, and I
It's
hope
just
that
being
comes across.
ourselves again. It was funny, too, as me and Megan were, when we first started planning this podcast and we were trying to go down the name, we had a whole list, at least 20, maybe 30, 40 names of what we could possibly call it. And One Hen Two Ducks was like maybe number 10, number 11. I don't know. It was somewhere it wasn't number one. It wasn't even like the top few.
It wasn't a couple of the first ones we thought about.
Yeah, it was kind of down the list. But once it was said, we bolded it, we put it in bold, and then we made a whole list of other things. But we're like, that one, because it encompasses everything we talked about in this episode. Mm-hmm. Those two lines, one hen, two ducks.
Two ducks.
Encompasses every memory, every beautiful nuance, every difficulty that we went through, every success, every failure, everything of our formative years together.
It was the start.
4 words encompass all of that. And
it was
that's
the start of the poem. It's the start of the poem. It's the first thing we did. It's the thing we remember most. Like, it's just
us.
The minute you start saying one hen, like, and this is going to be a little bit of a sad memory, but when Glenn Edwards died, everyone on Facebook was writing one hen, one hen. You know what I mean? And you would see people in the comments all like everywhere responding and writing it, because that's just kind of what that meant to so many people, not even necessarily his memory, but what it all meant to every person. That's just where we started.
Yes.
That was our
links
start.
Us together. That's if we can call it out into the world, one hen, and anyone to come back and respond to it, two ducks, we know that that's our family. But even if we've never met, because like Megan said, as we were going on specifically his social media pages and most of those people I didn't even meet, but we had this connection, and we'll always have that connection forever. Anybody who went through that program, specifically with the late and great Mr. Edwards, will just always have that connection. One hen,
two ducks.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led by those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I have been changed for good. well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made up of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped from a skybird halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore.